This is the award-winning Lee Pitts Live.
Brought to you by the North Law Firm. For car accidents and negligent security cases, call Joe at 239-337-1191. By Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers, where you can report crimes and get paid with nobody knowing your identity. Call 1-800-780-TIPS. By Solomon's Air Conditioning Incorporated. No matter what the weather condition is outside, have it your way inside. 239-693-1569. And by Lee Health. Good morning, Southwest Florida. Welcome back to Lee Pitts Live. We're so thrilled that you put us on your list of things to do. I think you're going to be delighted as well as we come to you from Mount Hermon Ministries, located here in Fort Myers, just outside of downtown Fort Myers in the heart of the Dunbar community. Mount Hermon Ministries does such an outstanding job in our community. We got an interesting lineup today. We got a chance to talk politics. Get a chance to talk to Christy McLaughlin, a candidate for U.S. Congress in Florida. That's be District 19, and she's a Republican. Also, we get a chance to talk to Jason Christian of Heartland Pavement System. He's the territorial manager. I got a chance to catch up with him out at Lee Pitts Live after work. Our next one will be July 10th. Put that on your calendar. The crowd will be out there. It's a dress in white affair. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, it's politics is in the air. Southwest Florida, welcome back. We're so thrilled to get here in the studio finally. I've seen her do her thing all over social media, so we'll talk about that as well. Christy McLaughlin, candidate for U.S. Congress District 19 and a proud Republican.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me, Lee.
It's so good to get you here. I'm looking at that big badge right there. What has been the response as you're moving around throughout Southwest Florida, particularly in your district, and people see that big badge on you right there, that advertisement? How have they been responding to you?
The response is energetic, and I find that to be so wonderful because people are eager to see a prosperous future in the legislation and seeing Southwest Florida be represented well in D.C. And the energy is just through the roof at all times. People are really excited to talk about the issues and to get out there and vote.
But along the way with your style, and that's what attracted me to you when I've watched you talk to the public on social media, you come with a upbeat style, a personable style where people feel comfortable that they can be a part of what you're doing. Talk about how you became the person that you have become to this point to just be a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. So people always tease me. They call me the cheerleader of Southwest Florida, even though I never was a cheerleader, mainly because this is my home. I'm a lifelong resident, and everybody here is my family and my friend. So to me, it's such a pride and joy to be running for this office. And it's so humbling as well, because I get to represent and serve the community. And that just brings me to be so excited to get to work and to talk about the issues. And that's why I also like to be bubbly and I like to be upbeat and think towards a positive future. And that's what my goal is.
Now, you're a lawyer by trade. Explain your education.
Absolutely. So I'm a lifelong resident. So I went to Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, and I graduated with a teaching certificate. So I am a Florida certified teacher, and I have experience in a first and fourth grade classroom. And then I went to law school in Ave Maria Law School, and I'm a lawyer now. Okay.
So being a lawyer, going to Washington, D.C., representing our district, how does that help you in what you're doing?
It helps me to be a constitutionalist. I have the legal training that's extremely necessary, particularly what we saw with the impeachment circus against Donald Trump. We need constitutionalists who have studied the Constitution, who are well-versed and able to defend it, particularly the type of people who have the energy and stamina to take on socialists, especially since with my familial background, we need somebody who can really fight for an enduring constitution against that socialist government entrenchment.
How would you describe yourself as a Republican? You know, a strict constitutionalist, conservative?
Absolutely. I'm very conservative, and I believe that the Constitution is not a living and breathing document that changes over time. In fact, the Founding Fathers were so prophetic in drafting the Constitution for the issues that we live now, today, in 2020. So I believe in an enduring Constitution and going towards the letter of the law. And that means protecting personal liberties and the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, Second Amendment. Those are strong rights of the people that need to be protected.
Now, it doesn't surprise you that in some cases, you mentioned Donald Trump, so I'll go there. In some cases, people have identified Donald Trump as someone who has ignored the Constitution in terms of some of the things that he has done. What's your comments to that?
Personally, I disagree, just by actions versus words. I know a lot of people like to quote President Trump in, maybe a misspeak or even just some confusion in what he's trying to represent. But by his actions alone, he is a constitutionalist. And then he's always actually having to fight against rhinos or Democrats that are trying to pull him away from the Constitution and use every power that they have to create those impediments and obstacles. So I think he's done a very strong job in protecting the Constitution.
Now, if you get to Washington, D.C. and represent District 19, you pretty much, if Donald Trump is the president, you pretty much will rubber stamp anything that Donald Trump wants?
Well, of course, my goal is Constitution. So never to rubber stamp anything that any individual wants. It's about the issues. So as a constitutionalist, I will be using that perspective of protecting rights, protecting civil liberties, and that's what I will be working on in Congress.
You've said that, and I heard you say this, that you have strong opinions about China in the pandemic as it relates to our country right now. Go ahead and expound on that.
I strongly think that China needs to be held accountable. And we know for a fact that they had not been transparent. In fact, they were dishonest about the interpersonal transmission of the COVID-19 virus, not to mention that they had, at the same time of banning travel from Wuhan to other parts of China, they still allowed travel from Wuhan to foreign countries. So they were deliberate, if not they were negligent, if not deliberate, in their intentions of spreading this virus, and they need to be held accountable. And that $1.07 trillion in debt that is owed to China, I think that needs to be taken care of, and there has to be some kind of restitution for their actions.
Give me an example what that looks like, though.
Absolutely. So when it comes to restitution, that $1.07 trillion, I think that needs to be waived. And then additionally, we have the $2 trillion stimulus bill, and we can consider holding China accountable for their actions in pain and suffering of the United States, the 75,000 plus people that have died due to this virus in the United States due to their actions.
What do you say to the people who say that the Trump administration moved too slowly on this, that they were aware of this as far back as January, and they drug their feet on it, and they're trying to point the blame over to China and all of these kind of things? You've heard it all.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I firmly disagree, because actually he had banned travel for that very specific reason. He had taken early action, and then the preventative measures, unfortunately, were clouded by the lack of transparency and the intentional dishonesty from China, and then the complicity from the WHO, World Health Organization.
How do you grade Donald Trump and administration on how they've handled the pandemic in America so far? When I say grade, A being best, F being worse.
I would say A, but of course you seem to think that I'm biased, but that's okay.
No, I just want to get you on record.
Trump.
Everybody's,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't have any dog in this fight or anything. I just want to get you on record on your position.
I would say a solid A, given the
Why?
projection of numbers that we were predicting devastating blows to the United States and deaths. We now know, so he took action, he took firm action in preventative measures. And then on top of it, now that we know that the death rate is very low, as a result, he's trying to take actions to open back up the economy. And you know that I've been a strong advocate to open back up the economy very early on, weeks ago. I've been advocating for that, because a broken economy is actually far more damaging, and there's comorbidities to that.
And you believe that just open the economy, let the chips fall where they may, whoever dies, they die. Let's just move on through, just like any other illnesses, the pandemic, that is. Go.
I feel that it's about personal responsibility. So a government cannot overreach and tell individuals exactly how to run their life. Especially, of course, there's
laissez-faire.
It's more about the personal responsibility of the individuals. We all know the risk. So if you are an at-risk individual, you can quarantine. It's your choice. And you can take the proper precautions to ensure that you remain safe and healthy. But for those that want to get back to work, like I said, there's comorbidities. We saw a 30% increase in domestic violence from the quarantine, once the quarantine had started in Collier County alone. So there are comorbidities, and there's so many more risks that are far more damaging than the virus itself. So that said, it's about personal responsibility and what the individual will do, knowing the risk, and then let they use their liberties to make that decision.
The state of Florida, Governor DeSantis, how you think his process of opening up the state, how do you like the way he's rolled out opening up the state?
Well, I'm very proud of him that he is opening up the economy. I think we need to have a strong opening, though. I think it's time to take the plunge and let Americans get back to work.
All the beaches opened, southeast part of the state of Florida, Broward, Palm Beach, Miami, all that. Just go.
Well, I just actually went to the beach last week, and I saw a lot of people being very responsible. People are taking the proper precautions on their own, so I think it needs to go back to personal liberties, and we take the plunge and let the individual take care of themselves.
You have a Cuban background?
Yes.
How does that influence you and how you go about your life and how we can see you as a sitting congressperson?
Absolutely. So my Cuban upbringing greatly influenced my moral foundations along with my ideology and philosophy. So that said, there's a strong fight in me against socialism. My great-grandma, who's 101, she raised me knowing full well the impact that political oppression can have on just the individual, but then the devastated the country. So when I see other young Congress people representing socialism and trying to bring that to the United States, that actually has pushed me to strongly advocate against it and to get further into the fight and bring that energy against socialism.
I call some names. Who's pushing socialism?
Well, the one who's most notorious, it would be Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, otherwise known as AOC. And I often get referred to as the anti-AOC because I am a young Latina woman, but I'm on the exact opposite end of the political spectrum that she is. And I have at least the personal familial background of knowing the damage that socialism can cause. It can just devastate families. It's so... to even fathom bringing socialism to the United States, given the history we just saw in Venezuela, the cost of socialism, that we have to fight it. We cannot let that be a part of the United States.
When you hear people say that the Republican Party has a very difficult challenge in attracting diversity to the Republican Party, we looking at you are diversity in all its glory. And, of course, you do hear people say that it has sort of a racist tendencies, it's kind of real conservative and not looking out for the minorities and disadvantaged people. What do you say to those people?
Well, there's the cliche that it's the party of straight white males. And what I say is, look at me. I'm the exact opposite of all of those stereotypes. The party is actually very inclusive because it's issue-based. I don't believe that there's issues of racism because if there's an issue of that, it's about individuals, and that's a people issue. It's not a party issue. I am very excited to bring the, inclusiveness to the party because I, as a young woman, have the energy and am looking towards the future of the party because I can expand us to new levels of diversity.
What made you decide to run for Congress?
I decided to run because Southwest Florida deserves a transparent and honest congressperson to represent Southwest Florida. We have our history of congresspeople who are, they are full of scandal and, malfeasance. With Southwest Florida, I promise to be honest, transparent, and always focus on character and integrity first. This is my pride and joy. I will always put Southwest Florida first, and I will be a strong voice in D.C. for Southwest Florida.
What has been a response from people who have realized that you are going to be running for Congress? What have they been saying to you?
It's been very good. I've had so many people encouraging me to bring the fight to D.C., and I find that so rejuvenating because, with such a packed race, it's about representing the people. It's not an opportunity for political clout. The seat belongs to the people, and it's a collaborative effort. So when I hear energy and encouragement from my family and friends here in Southwest Florida, that pushes me even farther.
When you hear "Make America Great Again," what does that mean to you?
Making America great again, we have such a strong moral foundation that this nation is founded upon. To me, right now, we're actually keeping America great, because every time, and you can see it with this COVID-19 pandemic, we come back stronger than ever. And we need to continue on that path that we keep America great.
And what do you say to those people who say that "Make America Great Again"? America was never great. America's always been struggling to get better, to get maybe one day reach greatness. All of the atrocities of the past, the exploitation of various people, including rape, slavery, and so on, Jim Crow, the whole gambit of things that happened over the years to say, hey, America was never really great. America aspires to improve along the way. Go.
When it comes to the history of atrocities, of course, that needs to be condemned. But the problem is, when it comes to the United States, we have such a strong foundation in personal liberty. So despite the fact that we have some history that is condemned and it's shameful, we need to look towards the fact that at the end of the day, we rise and we continue to rise and go towards a more prosperous future. And that's where you look towards the Bill of Rights, you look towards personal liberties, and that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is the very foundation of our nation. That is what makes America great.
How are you distinguishing yourself from the other, say, 9 Republicans who've already entered into the race, District 19, Congress, U.S. Congress of Florida? What about you, Christy, that's distinguishing you from the field?
Well, one particular issue is that I am not influenced by any other special interests. The only influence I have is that of the people of Southwest Florida. And you could just see that from my background of being a lifelong resident. I know the issues of Southwest Florida personally because I lived them every day of my life. And I don't have other influences of government entrenchment, career politicians, and abuse of the system that will lead me towards using political clout for my own needs rather than the needs of Southwest Florida.
Early on, you said that the Republican Party was pretty much viewed as a white male party. And of course, you represent diversity. Do you think that it's still a hurdle, a huge hurdle for you to jump as a female Republican, young, gifted, and energetic?
To me, it's a cliche that they always stereotype us as the old white male party. But the reality is we're an extremely diverse party. Myself, along with so many of my peers, we actually, just not long ago, we had a young conservative party online on Zoom with people all over the nation of every race, nationality, gender. It was so amazing that we are such an inclusive party. So that said, for the hurdle, I think the only hurdle is just representing Southwest Florida. I don't think it's going to be about my age, my gender, or my background, my cultural background. I think it's going to be about the issues for Southwest Florida.
People need to they will see you on the ballot in the primaries, August 18th.
Yes.
They can also see you currently now on a daily basis, I would say, in your virtual town halls. Go.
My virtual town halls, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it actually inspired me to be even more accessible to the community. If I want to represent Southwest Florida, I firmly believe that you have to be accessible. Every single person in Southwest Florida needs to be able to think that they can reach me personally. So when I came up with the virtual town halls, it was trying to be creative and energetic and saying, okay, we have a pandemic, but I'm still going to be accessible to the community. So I do weekly town halls, sometimes several a week, with various small business owners. We have issues of like Second Amendment. We have a different theme every week, and it's just another way of bringing the community together.
How can people tap into your town halls?
Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on my website, ChristyForCongress.com. I also have a YouTube account, and my Facebook is linked on that website.
Back to diversity. Southwest Florida is more and more becoming diverse. All races, African Americans, Hispanics, Caribbean, Cuban, just the works. Do you see yourself as a person who can get votes from all different demographics?
Absolutely, because that diversity, to me, it's not about race. It's not about identifying the differences. It's about that we are all people of Southwest Florida. And, I am just one of those people. And I think I can represent that well because it's family and friends. This is where I grew up. These are the people I grew up with. This is who I intend to have a future with. It's about people. And it's not about differentiating different needs. And as the young, energetic candidate in the group, I definitely have the energy to reach out to all of those sectors.
When a person votes for Christy, what are they getting?
They're getting not only a friend. Everyone here is just, they will always have a lifelong friend in me, whether they vote for me or not. And I will always work for their interests. But they have somebody who will always put them first, Southwest Florida first, and will not be susceptible to, special interests in my ear, lobbyists, career politicians trying to affect my decision making.
How do you see the environment? Is it important?
Absolutely. And especially here in Florida, we need clean water. And that is one of the prime issues that, I intend to represent in Southwest Florida. My first swim was in one of the Southwest Florida beaches, and we need clean water. And that's a huge issue. And that's an investment that I will be fighting for in Congress.
But in general, people don't see Republicans as being environmentally friendly. If I'm saying that the right way, I think you understand what I'm saying. Are Republicans environmentally friendly?
I would definitely think so, because it's about the safety and health of every individual.
When you hear about global warming and all these types of things, it doesn't seem like the Republicans respect the science.
Right. So first of all, there's differentiation between the science. So it depends on what your sources are. So when you have an advocate for the Green New Deal, they use certain sources, but not the others. And that's where you get that confusion of seeming that the Republican Party does not care about the environment, because we're using different sources, both of which are credible, but they differentiate because we don't always know exactly, because the sciences are based on theories and based on different studies. But that said, of course, it's important to the Republican Party, particularly for the safety, health, and welfare of the nation. And with Florida, water for the safety, health, and welfare of the constituents in Florida, but also it's a big issue with commerce. We have waterways that are going to affect the entire nation, and that affects business, that affects real estate, that affects just general welfare of the people. So it is very important to the Republican Party.
You mentioned the word welfare. When we think about those stimulus packages, trillions of dollars being sent out, large corporations getting welfare too, getting bailed out, small businesses complaining they're not getting the money that they were supposed to get, individuals get some money, just giving out welfare. What's your thoughts about the way the stimulus money has been distributed?
Well, with the stimulus money, it was very necessary because the economy was, on a precipice of a huge downfall. So the stimulus was very necessary, but you bring me to an important thought, which is the single subject rule. Now, the Florida Constitution has the single subject rule, and that's to put the constituents on notice of what is in a law. When you have a huge $2 trillion stimulus package, the unfortunate part is there's so many ways to sneak in other agendas into a law. So that's something that I intend to propose in Congress. That's something I intend to propose in Congress, which is a single subject rule, because that ensures that every individual is put on notice as to what is being put into a bill. And then also it requires that any subject being addressed in that bill is properly connected therewith of that single subject.
Good luck with that. But let's go with your ability to reach across the aisles, we hear, to win friends, influence people, and build consensus. One of the things that the American people seem to always agree on is that there's not enough cooperation in Washington, D.C. First of all, do you think that there is enough cooperation? And if not, what would you do as a congressperson to improve our relationships with both parties?
The lack of cooperation is very unfortunate. In an ideal world, we would all agree on everything and everything would be a very easy subject. But of course, we're all people. We all have differing perspectives. So that said, when it comes to reaching across the aisle, I can proudly say, even just as an example, recently, I am one, if not of the only 2 candidates out of the 10 in the Republican primary who actually reached across the aisle to communicate with a progressive magazine that asked us a question and asked us to respond based on the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm willing to communicate and definitely reach across the aisle. But that said, when it comes to, butting heads and disagreeing, I truly think that we need to win back the House as Republicans and then, get on the right track of passing laws and moving forward.
What is your hope for America, say 5 years from now? What will America look like?
Well, that's why I'm always
Coming out
looking
of the
towards
pandemic.
the future. Coming out of the pandemic, this is not the first pandemic we've ever seen, and it won't be the last. So my hope is, America always comes back stronger than ever, that this is a learning experience, that we will be able to improve, prepare some more preventative measures and better reacting measures when it comes to a pandemic. But also, I predict to see a very prosperous future for the United States.
How can people get involved with your campaign?
Visit ChristyForCongress.com. There you can find my personal contact. You'll always be able to reach me, and that's how we get started.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show and looking forward to getting you back in the future.
Thank you so much, Lee.
All right. Good luck with your campaign.
Thank you.
As the saying goes on this particular show, for those who say it can't be done, they're usually interrupted by those like Christy and all the people who are associated with her campaign who are doing it. We'll see you.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello, everybody. This is Lee Pitts, the host of the award-winning Lee Pitts Live here on Fox 4. We appreciate you watching our show here on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, clicking below. Let everybody else know that they can subscribe as well. Also, when we're on the air on Fox 4, you can also catch us streaming live at 8:30 a.m. in the morning on fox4now.com. Just click on live and you get us all types of ways at your convenience. That's Lee Pitts Live.